Hello, this is Langston Key, and this is my project on saving and loading. So I chose to do this project because originally I wanted to do tool development, but I kind of wanted someone to develop my tool for. And so after asking some peers, I thought it'd be fun to make some kind of narrative game application. As a starting off point, I use these tutorials. This one is about serialization in Unity, and the other one is about how to manipulate the file explorer in Unity. Basically, the way I learned this works is you have an object inside Unity, and we convert that into a stream of bytes that we can essentially put anywhere we want, including save to disk as a file. And similarly, converting back to an object works the same way, just in reverse. Next is serializing with JSON. By default, Unity has a lot of limitations on what it can and can't serialize, including like dictionaries, inheritance, and other data types that JSON just like ignores entirely. But I was able to find this really great thing on GitHub that the video I watched recommended that's called Full Serializer, which is able to serialize all of those things. And it still has to be a class, but it's a lot easier than the default Unity one. I need to design a system that is savable, and this in itself actually is a little bit trickier than when it first might seem. I decided to describe my smallest unit of data as an actor, which in the context of like a narrative application would be like someone with dialogue that has a picture, and so they just have a name and an image right now. And next, I conceptualize this like flowchart as the user who's able to manipulate the data, and me who's able to store that data. Next, we have the actor, which I want to keep exclusively that class for holding data. So I wrote two more classes, actor data display to visually show what's inside the actor data, and actor data editor, which is made to edit the name and image of actors, and the user can interact with the editor version. Next, I wrote something called a novella, which is essentially my smallest form of narrative data. It contains everything that you would need to load or save a single narrative. And in this case, I only have an actor manager, which stores all of the actors. But in the future, you ostensibly would have other novella data like background images or something like that. But we would all ultimately store that inside the novella so that we're able to read and write from just that single class. Inside the novella manager, there are two events, a save event and a load event. The novella manager is the only class responsible for reading and writing that data to disk. However, we need to tell every other thing responsible for storing and manipulating that data to actually write or read from the current novella, and that's what these events are for. Here's the code walk, which is basically just the code of the flowcharts you just saw. So this is the actor. It has a little bit more than just name, and as you can see, image path as opposed to image. So essentially, I just have a pointer to an image instead of saving an image, which makes more sense in the JSON context. Next is the actor manager. This class stores all the actors as well as some information about ID, which basically just tells us what the next actor ID should be. The next one is the novella, and so obviously the novella is really tiny right now because all it needs to store is essentially the minimum amount of data required to perfectly replicate the game state, which in this case is just the actor manager. And then the novella manager has this cool Unity event trick where we can write a serializable class called novella event that looks like this, and it's able to essentially have the Unity event pass in a novella. And this is really cool because you can also serialize it and call dynamic events to pass in data, even from the inspector, which is super awesome. Next is the save method. This is essentially the serialization step that I mentioned earlier. The first thing we do is we make a new novella, and then we call on save, which tells every other thing subscribed to that to write to the current novella, essentially. And next, we serialize that data and write it to a file. Load is basically the opposite. First, we take that file and then read it all out into a novella, and then we call the event on load, which tells all the other classes to actually read from that novella instead of writing to it. And this is what that looks like. So this is the writing is the save, and the reading is the load. So as you can see, the save has and actually both methods have what's called deep copy, which essentially is a method I found on Stack Overflow, but it copies everything in a list without copying the reference. Next, this is how we load image. It's actually kind of interesting. I don't know if this is like the quote unquote right way to do it, but it's using local networking. So essentially networking with your own computer. And this is everything I learned. It's easier to develop with like a target audience in mind. Even if this is obviously far away from like any kind of narrative application, it's really great to have that starting point to go from. Reading and writing to JSON and its limitations, as well as manipulating files on disk. And then finally, designing data for savability. My ideas for the creative include obviously the ability to use these actors in a novella, so you're able to like say, oh, this actor says this, and then this actor says this. I think that'd be really cool. The ability to export an exe format from a built Unity project. I don't know if this is possible, but I have some ideas on how to do it. And then finally, the ability to save and edit multiple novellas in the same built version. And anyway, that's it, and hope you guys have a great day.